everyone, and welcome to another episode of Three Sisters in a Van and Our Travels. Today we're going to have a bit of a chat about where we headed after we spent some time in Coober, Pedy.
Yep, yeah. So we were driving up through the centre of Australia for this video. So
the Red Centre.
Yep. So we're going to cover quick stop over in going through Uluru, and then a quick stop over in Alice Springs and all the way up to Katherine. So a fair few Ks covered in this video. Yeah, but our first adventure was leaving Coober, Pedy and heading up to Uluru.
Yes, so we were on our way and we did a decent drive that first day.
We did, yeah.
We headed up towards the border.
Yep. So this is the first time either of us have been to the Northern Territory.
It was.
Yeah.
It was exciting, yes.
So it took us a day to drive from Coober, Pedy to the border, where there is a free camp site. There's not many spots there. There is some toilets right on the border. And we got there pretty early.
Yeah, we left nice and early that morning. Got
at the end of one of the rows where you can park your caravans. And it did fill up as the afternoon went on, which was... it got quite busy.
It did. Yeah. So it was 390 kilometres to travel from Coober, Pedy up to the border. Mm-hmm. So it was a significant chunk of driving to get done pretty early in the morning. Yeah,
there are a couple of roadhouses along the way you can get petrol at, so we stopped at one of them and just got some more petrol, because as you get closer to Uluru, there's really expensive petrol going into Yalara. So it's not cheap, so better fill up before you get there.
Yeah.
But you still have to get petrol when you're there because it's just so far to go.
Yeah.
Unless you got a super long range tank.
Yeah.
So we stayed there. The girls had fun jumping over the border line between South Australia and the Northern Territory. Just stayed there overnight.
Yep.
And the flies weren't too bad there.
No, they were okay.
We were kind of half expecting some flies, but they were pretty good there. And we left there early in the morning.
Still heading towards Uluru.
Mm-hmm. So we're still a day away.
Yep, so we go north and then we cut in west a little way. Yep.
So Garn, you turn left at Garn. There's another way you can go that's a little bit more off the beaten track, but we went stuck to the main road.
Yep.
Turned left at Garn and headed down. And we're going to stop at a free camp. Just before Yalara, just before the Ayers Rock Resort Campground. So we stayed at a free camp.
We did, and it was possibly one of my favourite free camps of anywhere that we've been. So it was...
the Sandy View rest area.
Yeah.
There's a couple along the way you can stop at. Sandy View, I think, is the closest. There might be one, roadside one. But Sandy View, there is a roadside stop.
Yep.
And then if you look carefully, there's a bit of a gap you can go through and go down. I probably wouldn't do it without a four-wheel drive.
Yep.
Because the road was a little bit rough, but you go down, there's just heaps of space down there to camp. And we followed an older couple down, and we were the only two there for so long in the afternoon. And it was just really cool to have a bit of an explore. Really red.
It really, I think probably the first time really felt like the Red Centre kind of outback. Like you did have that colour of the dirt, and just... It was empty and it was quiet and there was space. It was really beautiful. Yeah, it was really beautiful.
Yeah, it was. It was quiet and peaceful. And we did a bit of exploring. We got the drone up for a bit.
We did.
Went for a bit of a walk, and little did we know that until we got the drone up, that just over the horizon, over the hill, there's a hill you couldn't see beyond.
A dune, a
dune, and it was a bit of a walk to get there, but we flew the drone up and you could see Uluru in the distance, and it was spectacular.
It was beautiful. So we did a bit of a walk in the afternoon.
Yep.
We walked up the dune and across the top of it, and just as you come up and over the top, you can just see Uluru just kind of appearing in the distance. It's a pretty spectacular view.
Yeah. So we'd parked down in like a valley kind of thing. If you walk back to the road, there's a little hill, sand dune walk up from there. And you can get the perfect. I think a lot of people sit up there with a
sundowner.
Champagne, and set their table up and watch the sun set with Uluru in the background. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. Probably one of the best sites to stop before you go in to see Uluru, I think.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool.
Yes.
And there's some little creature tracks that the girls had fun.
Yeah, so many
following along.
tracks
We didn't
in
know
the
what
sand.
they were. Yeah, it was just really cool spot. We had a campfire, which was nice. And yeah, it was just really cool.
And because you're out in the middle of the desert and there's really very few people out there, there's no lights, there's only just a few campfires going. The stars in the sky were spectacular that night.
Bright.
It just felt just so beautiful. It was just a real moment. And being out in the desert, little campfire, just a sky full of stars above you, and just Uluru just over the dune there. It was,
you liked to toot
really
your Charlie boy. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
So
it was beautiful.
Yeah, and we stayed there one night. If you wanted to, you could probably stay there and then go in and visit the national park from there.
So
if you
I think if we weren't
van.
traveling with Charlie, that probably would have been the best option.
Yeah, if you were comfortable leaving your van there, because it's not secured and anyone can go in there, I guess. But yeah, you could. But because we had Charlie, we couldn't. So we got up the next morning and drove. It was about how far was that to go into
Yulara? It was only about 30 kilometres. We were very close.
But to get to the Sandy View rest area,
sure.
it was about 300 k's. So that wasn't far. But then it's only 30 k's to the Ayers Rock Campground from Sandy View.
I forgot to mention on the way into the Sandy View Campground, you're surprised along the way with what you think is Uluru, which we found out was not Uluru. Or it's commonly called Fuluru. Mount Connor.
Yeah.
So it's another big spectacular kind of big rock coming out of the ground. We're like, oh, there's Uluru, but it was not. But there is a roadside stop where you can stop and have a look at Mount Connor,
which is pretty big
on the way. Which is
it's
also beautiful. But not quite Uluru.
No, not quite Uluru.
No.
So then we did the long 30 k's into Ayers Rock Campground. Got there a bit early. They're pretty strict on their check-in times of 11. So
yes.
And there's a few little spots you could park if you get in there early. But we checked in, and the check-in experience wasn't
the best experience.
Wasn't the greatest customer service. No, they seemed too busy to be wanting to offer any advice on things to do around the place. So
I kind of got the feeling that because they're the only campground there, they don't need our business. There's always going to be people who are going to Uluru, and so it's always going to be busy and always going to be full. And so there was certainly not a real attempt to be super helpful or super friendly or which was a real shame actually. It kind of put a bit of a downer on the morning because we were all so excited about getting there.
We were, yep, and we'll probably say this is probably the worst
I think it
paid camp spot that we've been to.
Worst paid caravan park.
It was. The facility was pretty run down. The toilet areas were very unclean, and some of the shower stalls were broken, and just I think we were there for 2 nights, and every time we went to the toilets, it was not great.
No.
And the kitchen facilities
were not working, half of them.
No, I've had to go through 4 barbecues before I could find a working one. And there was a little sink for a lot of people, and we had some people camping in tents.
We were packed in.
Probably a metre behind us. So
we had vans, and we were kind of almost like car park spaces side beside each other. And then, directly behind the back of the van, they had a tent spot, and we had tents right up on the back of us.
So we were probably in the smallest caravan sites, and then, had tents right behind us as well. So,
as a campground, it wasn't our best experience.
We weren't spending too much time there because we were going out and adventuring. But that was.
And
if you're going there, probably expect unless they jazz it up a bit before you.
And if you know that, and if you're not travelling with a dog and you're happy to leave the caravan, I would definitely say that 30 kilometres outside of Yulara is a much nicer spot to come in from.
Because it's not a long drive to get to Uluru.
And it's not cheap either.
No, it was about $90 a night for us, for the 5 of us. So, Anyway, on that first day, we checked in. We got Charlie a dog sitter. So one good thing about the Ayers Campground is that there's lots of staff there that have days off and there's not much to do. So very easy to find dog sitters, pet sitters on...
the Uluru buy, swap and sell.
That's it, yeah. So we found 2 for the 2 days we were there.
Yes, and they were both lovely.
Yep.
They were both wonderful. They were both international people who had come over and who were working at the campground. And yeah, as I say, when they've got their days off, once they've kind of done the walks a few times, they're not really needing to do them all over again. So
no, there's not stacks to do. So
no, and so they and they were fantastic.
They're not expensive either.
I wasn't sure what would happen. I wasn't sure whether there was going to be like a yard they would put Charlie in, but they really don't have a yard. So basically they had Charlie on lead and they walked him all day. They played with him. They went and sat down in the park with him. I had video and photo updates sent during the day saying, hey, here Charlie and I, we're in the village green, doing this, or we've gone here because it's a bit warm. So they were fantastic. And we didn't have to organise that a long time in advance.
No, we did it on the day pretty much we got there.
Yeah.
For the 2 days we were there. So yeah, we got a couple of responses when we put a request up. So that was pretty easy, pretty good. I don't know if anyone else has had any issues with finding pet sitters, but easy for us.
Yeah, fantastic. Was something we were a bit worried about, but so good. Yeah, so good.
Yes, because the first day, I suppose the afternoon, we had an adventure planned. We were going to do
We were going to go to Kata.
Tjuta, yep.
Yes.
So we did a drive out to Kata from the campground. It's 50 kilometres from
it is a bit of a drive.
Site. Yep.
Yeah,
so further than Uluru, but we got out there and there's awesome scenery as you drive out of Kata. Just awesome views. And we got out there and there's several walks you can do. It was really, not really hot, it was warm when we were getting out there. We didn't have all day, so we picked the Valley of the Winds walk, the shorter one. I think there's several you can do. So we did that.
Yes.
And it was very fly when
we
did it because it was the
definitely
afternoon.
needed our fly veils.
Yeah, we had them on and we did our walk, which was only a couple of kilometres. It wasn't far. I think it was an hour round trip.
So we could have gone further. We kind of walked to a point, and then you could have gone to the next kind of lookout, but we stopped at the first one. So
and the girls weren't too keen on a really long walk, and we did have a long day planned the next day, so we were fine just to go out and have a look and do a little walk. We stopped at a couple of the stops where you can get a good view from a different perspective, and just incredible to see Kata. Highly recommend if you're out that way. You need to get out to that stop as well as Uluru. So we did that.
Yes.
Then we went back, picked Charlie up, and we're planning for our next big day, which was a big day, doing the walk around Uluru.
Yes, so the plan was that we were going to get up super early in the dark and get to Uluru nice and early because we were going to do the full base walk, which is about 10 kilometres. But we wanted to get there nice and early because it does start to heat up, and I knew that the walk was going to be more difficult for the girls the hotter it got during the day.
And 10k is a long way for little legs, so
it is for little 5-year-old legs.
The fresher they are, the better. So just from the very start of the morning, tummy full of brekkie, we were on. So our pet sitter was great. She was available very early, so
I think we dropped Charlie at 6:30.
6:30, between 6:30 and 7, and then it's only a short drive out to Uluru. It's only 20 minutes. And we got out there. And once you get close to it, it's just unreal, isn't it? And the sun was rising as well, and it was just magical.
Just glorious. Just beautiful.
And this is probably one of the highlights of our trip so far.
Well, when we told the girls that we were, this is what we were thinking of doing, and were there places that they really wanted to make sure that they got to. The 2 places that they said were must-dos on their list were, one was Uluru, and one was, to the tropical North Queensland and the Great Barrier Reef. So everyone was pretty excited to finally get to Uluru.
they were. And we were doing the walk around, the
Yep,
10
the base
kilometre,
walk.
the base
Yep.
walk. Yeah, so there's a couple of little side tracks you can do as well to explore some other little bits. So we did
Yep.
a couple of them.
Yep.
But yeah, the base walk's about 10 k's around. So I wanted to run around it.
You did.
So I left before them and ran around, and it was about 44 minutes for the 10 k's. And you guys had gone a fair way. You'd done about 3 kilometres before I caught up to you on the second lap.
Yep.
There's a couple of, at the start of the walk, if you go clockwise, you can go and have a look at some little caves. And
Yes, so there's some beautiful sites with some rock art there, and it's fantastic actually at Uluru, the signage all the way around, giving insight and information to the cultural practices that took part in particular places, and where it was appropriate for you to be kind of near the rock, and where it was appropriate for you to take photographs near the rock or not take photographs. There are some sections around Uluru which are culturally sensitive, and so it's not appropriate to be taking photos there. It's not appropriate to be touching the rock there. So, but the stories, like the Dreamtime stories that were given in great detail on the signage around the rock.
Yeah, so the walk would be a bit quicker if you didn't stop and read them, but that's part of the experience of stopping and reading the stories and just getting a true feeling of what Uluru truly is. And where you start, actually, you can see where the old Uluru climb, the chain climb. It was Ayers Rock, where the chain climb started. It's right at the very start where we started. And you can actually see kind of the pegs in the ground where the chain would have been attached, and you can kind of see the line where the walk was heading up over the rock. Which was interesting. To think that and it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't.
So we were on our way around. Many cool spots to stop and take photos and look, and just incredible. But I think one of the greatest, one of the best spots and learning about was that there's actually a whole heap of water running around, or in parts at the base of Uluru, and when it rains obviously it fills up, but there's a magical water hole that you can walk down and sit at with water running down into it, and it's so spectacular. It is
just beautiful. So Uluru wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. Like you're saying, with so much water, I expected Uluru to be in the middle of a desert, and for it to be just barren and dry, red sand, and just a big, red kind of rock rising out of this red sand. But when we actually start to do the walk and you're close into the base, it's like it's a whole ecosystem. Like, it's incredible. There's water holes. There's one particularly spectacularly beautiful water hole with an incredible cultural story attached to it. But there's trees and like billabong kind of reedy sections where the water pools, and you can see where the water would run down in waterfalls, and there's really green sections and shady sections and caved kind of sheltered sections and open sections. It's quite incredible. So when you're there, you can really get a sense for how it could be such an important kind of gathering place for Indigenous people. Pretty cool.
So it was very special.
It was.
And so cool to get to walk around it and experience it, and it was just spectacular. So the walk around took us about 4 hours with the stopping, or from starting at 7 and then getting around, having...
Well, there was a lot of stopping.
Getting
there were
photos,
a lot of photos,
reading,
there was a lot of reading,
and stopping for some snacks and drinks, and it was about that long, and that was just pretty much right, because at stage when we'd finished, the flies were coming out and it was getting a little bit warmer.
Yeah, so that was a real benefit to starting early. Yes, the heat, but also we didn't have an issue with flies walking around.
Whereas I reckon in the afternoon
nice.
you could have probably had quite a few flies, like we did the day before.
Yeah.
So we did that. We finished. Very happy. We went to the cultural centre afterwards, where they have a lot of the stories that you learn about the walk if people don't do the whole walk. So we had a walk through there and just had a look at some things. Yeah,
I was going to say though, if you, if the 10-kilometre walk does seem a bit much, there are some other options. If you want to do the base walk track, but you don't feel like the 10-kilometre is accessible for you or for your family. So we walked it. It is flat, like it's a very easy in terms of...
Not hilly at all.
No, but it is 10 kilometres. You can hire bikes there.
Or people bring their own bikes.
You can bring your own bike, and you can hire like a child kind of trailer thing to go with the bikes. So there's bike option. You've also got, they do Segway tours there. So we saw quite a few people doing on a Segway tour. And they had a guide with them who kind of stopped at various spots and talked to them about the stories.
Which are funny because they kind of look out of place in Uluru.
They do.
The Segways.
They do.
But
Very
still.
much.
Yeah.
But if that makes the walk accessible to people who wouldn't have been able to do it and do really want to get all the way around the bottom, that's another option as well. When we started, it was lovely because it was very quiet. There were very few people
The car park
there.
was one car in the car park when we pulled up, and there was many more than that when we got there
and
on the end.
The Segway tours and the biking it all ramped up a bit by the end, and so it was much busier. So I would highly recommend getting a very early start and getting down there. We were still just kind of dawn.
Much more pleasant doing it.
Yeah, it was a beautiful time of day to do it.
And you get the sunrise as well, which is pretty spectacular at Uluru as well. Yeah. So awesome spot. So glad we did it. I think it was always going to happen. But yeah, definitely worth, because it is a little bit out of the way if you're doing a lap around Australia to get down or up to it. But it's worth it. Yeah, it is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so we went back, picked Charlie up. Tied it up, left the next day, headed out, and we were making our way up to our next major destination, which was going to be Berry Springs, just south of Darwin. We had a couple of stops on the way planned.
We did. You got a bit of a drive to get
from there's a few thousand kilometres,
Darwin.
I think, maybe 2,000 or something. I don't know. There's a lot of kilometres. So we head off and made our way back out to the main highway, and then turned left and had a little stopover just north of Garn.
Desert
Oaks rest area.
Yep.
Which again had a drop toilet there. Was pretty quiet overnight. Just people coming and using the toilets, and a couple other caravans there. There was a few flies there as well. Not really bad, but
not the worst we've had.
Some. No. Got up early the next morning, kept driving.
Yeah, we stopped in at Alice just for a quick grocery stop. We weren't going to stay in Alice Springs.
No.
So we kind of got there mid-morning-ish, did a grocery shop, and we're out by kind of lunchtime.
Yep, and you hear lots of things about Alice Springs on the news, and it was fine when we were there. Just not a lot of good places to park with a caravan if you want to go to Woolies. So you kind of have to hunt for a double parking spot on the street. So that's what we did, and we kept going. Yep. And we drove to the Tea Tree Roadhouse, which was about 360 k's beyond the Desert Oaks rest area. Yep. And that was it was a decent roadhouse with a nice little caravan parking spots out the back, shower and toilet block.
Is that the one that was really pumping by whatever time I got there?
Yeah, you went in to check in, and the pub area was full flight.
It was.
They kept going. They kept going all afternoon and evening.
I think they had a bell. A bell that was being rung, so there was some great celebration happening in there.
It is a gated it's a bit interesting when you see the big gates that close and open, and so there was a big gate which closed behind you when you go in there, which was nice, but then we woke up in the morning and the gate was wide open. It had been open all night, so I'm not sure what happened there, but everything was all good. It was all right.
Yeah, and it was a fine stop.
Yep, yeah, it was pretty good. And then we left there and we kept going north, and we stopped. We weren't sure where we were going to stop. We kind of changed our plans a few times, but we ended up at a really cool station, Banka Station, which is 420 kilometres north of Tea Tree. And it's just a big station with a caravan park at the front.
Yep, and it was great. It's an Indigenous-owned station.
Yep.
It has a beautiful kind of little hill that you can do a bit of a lookout.
Yep.
Just right behind.
There's a water hole. There's
spot.
a bit of a water hole you can walk to, which is only 2 kilometres away, I think, or a kilometre or 2 kilometres.
Yep.
You can go swimming in that one. That's pretty safe to swim in. We didn't do that one.
No.
So the other cool thing about Banka is that there was 2 donkeys that were neighbours to the fence where the caravan section is. So the girls had a great time saying hello to the donkeys and having a pat and listening to their cool donkey noises. So that was exciting.
And we got there quite late in the afternoon.
Yeah, there wasn't...
We hadn't booked or gotten anything organised. No. We turned up and they were great. They found us a spot. It was quite busy.
We had an unpowered spot with water, but all of their sites had water, so lots and lots of water on offer, which is very handy.
Yep.
And then we went to bed early because we had a big drive planned for the next day. Probably this was our biggest day of driving, so just under 600 kilometres, which is just hightail it all the way up to Katherine. So we did the big drive, made it up there, and it wasn't too late when we got there. We made good time because we left at 6:30.
We did get up very early. We got up and packed up in the dark and left in the dark.
Tried to not disturb everyone, and left and made it all the way out there and just passed through a couple of towns. Mataranka was one of them, probably the main one. Tennant Creek as well. Got some fuel. Made it into Katherine. And been recommended a really cool spot to stay in Katherine called the Katherine Farmstay.
And it was great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we got there nice and early and we got to kind of make the most. We stayed there for 2 nights.
Yeah, we got there just after lunch.
Yeah.
So about 2 o'clock. We stayed there for 2 nights.
Yep.
And the owners there, they have a really cool farm and they do a farm tour for the kids and the adults of all their animals. And they've got so many animals. They've got cows and horses and camels,
emus,
buffalo. Was it buffalo or one of those big bovine creatures?
I'm not sure. I can't
but
remember.
Snakes.
They have a little crocodile.
They have a little crocodile. Goats, sheep,
birds, chickens,
Yeah,
squirrels.
they have heaps of stuff, and they do a tour around all of them and feed them and let the kids feed them, and it's so cool. They're such a cool couple that run it.
Yeah, they're really generous with their time. They bring feed around for the kids too. And there was quite a collection of kids. I mean, it was quite a big group and families. The one we did that first afternoon. And they've got feed for everyone. It's absolutely free. And they just spend as long as you want going through everything. They answer all sorts of questions. You know, they let the kids feed animals, pat animals, do all sorts of things. And I mean, it's not expensive to stay there at all.
I think it was $30 or $40 a night for the 5 of us, which is way cheaper than the caravan parks there. Yeah. And they've got a pool there as well.
Yes.
And a camp kitchen. And
it's just a really nice, they've got lots of trees around where the caravans are.
Very
it's just
shady.
a really nice spot.
You still could, still got enough sun for the solar. So it was very, very cool. Highly recommended to try to get in there before anywhere else in Katherine.
Yeah. And it was a great spot for families. You know, some spots you turn up and there are we might be the only family with young children there. But this had a lot of families.
Get some sideways looks as you drive in with loud
people screams
coming from the
But this was really family friendly. There were heaps of kids riding bikes.
Most of them there were families, and we had some good chats with some people beside the pool and when we were doing the tours, and it was a really cool spot.
Thoroughly recommended if you've got a family and you want to have a stop for a day or 2 or 3. and have the kids have other people to play with and connect with. It was really lovely there.
Yeah. So we'd planned on doing 2 nights, or a night before we got there, but because we heard it was pretty cool, we decided to drive there and do a big trip there, so we could do the animal stuff and then have a look through Katherine the next day. So we did go into Katherine, had a look around. Our highlight of Katherine was the Katherine Hot Springs, and they were really cool. Really warm, the hot springs, but awesome spot to visit. Can't take dogs in there, so we took turns at sitting up on the park up above with Charlie, and went down with the girls. And yeah, it's just different. I don't think I've ever been swimming in a hot spring before.
No. It was nice and warm, so it was definitely nice to get into.
And the air temperature was warm as well, but it was really nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was lovely. And it was just quite beautiful. The water was really clear, nice kind of sandy bottom. And
you can swim in little sections, or you can make your way all the way down, because there's a bit of a river that it just flows down. You can make your way down to a bit of an adventure, which we did a couple of times with the girls. And it was just, the water felt a bit different than like what we used to go, suppose, from the ocean or a pool.
It's fresh water coming up out of the ground. I mean, it did have, that was probably our first crocodile warning sign, where it says, warning, crocodiles may inhabit this area, swim with caution. And so that was the first time we'd encountered one of those signs, and went, okay, there's people around, they're swimming, we're going to give it a go.
So it's one of the safest spots to swim, because they do patrol that pretty heavily.
And it's kind of fenced from, like it's gated, the river that's running down, the creek that's running down, is gated at one end and at the other.
And in the dry season when we were there, it's not too wet, so the crocodiles aren't travelling too far to get there. So it's pretty good, pretty safe. It was our first experience as well with people with pool noodles. So everyone goes there with pool noodles, and they sit there and float just in the water, because some of the water's quite deep, and you can just float with the pool noodles and just float around. You don't have to tread water, you just relax. So there's so many pool noodles kicking around. We didn't have
adults and children all turning up with pool noodles.
Mostly adults. A lot of the oldies, which is fair enough too. So you just chill out in the hot spring like a bath and just relax and have a chat. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. And
that was really it. I did a run one morning and did a bit of a trek, and there's a couple of other spots you can visit around. There's some cool parkland areas, but we didn't, because we were only there for the one day. We just, the hot springs was our main destination. So we did that. And left after 2 nights, and we were on our way to our month in just south of Darwin in Berry Springs at a farm stay. Farm sit. Sorry, we were sitting for a family who were going away on holiday. That's where we're heading.
Tell you more about that.
And in our next video, we'll talk to you all about our adventures just near Darwin.
And the farm sit experience.
The true farm sit experience. So we'll see you then, and we will chat soon. Hopefully, we'll get another video out shortly. See ya.